You could see how it all could work without centralized government, really, like how the community could take care of itself. One of the ones that was going to be difficult was showing an example of anarchy, and we did that. We went, and it rocked.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I'm here in Anarchapocalypse, Mexico at a friend's place. It's actually Michael Nimitz' place. He's often throws wild Anarchapocalypse parties here. Some of you may have even been here before. And I'm here with Chris Harrigan, and we actually were just in Cherán, Mexico, which is about 30,000 people strong city that is basically completely anarchist. They threw out all government, all politicians, and all police about 7 years ago. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, some of our experiences. And Chris is also a filmmaker. He's done a number of great films, including one with the cancer guy who was on Anarchast. What was his name?
Rick Simpson.
Rick Simpson, yeah. If you haven't looked up that Anarchast, it was amazing, and you did a full documentary on it and numerous other documentaries. And right now, Chris is working on a documentary called Anarchapocalypse. I don't know if it's as dark as it sounds, but he's been filming a lot of stuff. He actually was there in Cherán filming some of the stuff we're doing. He's been filming in Acapulco and a number of other things. So we're going to talk about that as well. There's a number of great documentaries on essentially anarchy coming out in the next little while, and Chris is working on one of them. So great to talk to you, Chris. And before we get into Cherán and your documentaries and all that, I got to ask you, how did you become an anarchist?
I think I've always been an anarchist. It was my nature, I guess. Like growing up, I had two separate families. Like I had pretty strict stepfather, and I'd see all these rules in the house, and then I'd go over to my father's house, and the rules disappeared. And so I think I just had the common sense most of my life, and just seeing the value of freedom. Yeah,
that's great. And so you've done a number of documentaries, but before we get into that, let's get into Cherán, because that was fascinating. I haven't really talked about it on Anarchast. I've talked about it at the Dollar Vigilante, and I've done some videos with Luke of Radowski of We Are Change. You can check that out. We'll put some links to those all down below if you want to check it out. But you're the first person I've had on Anarchast who's seen Cherán that I've interviewed. What was your take of the place?
It was amazing. Like just to see anarchy in action, because that's always the question you get asked, like how would it work, and it just, you walk into this place or you get there, and you didn't feel eyes upon you,
No.
You felt relaxed, and it was friendly. We got there, and we didn't tell anybody we were coming. And you have the elder there that just walks up and says, "Hey, I see you're filming in my city, and what's going on?" It was very eye-opening, because you could see how it all could work without centralized government, really, like how the community could take care of itself. And like I said, you didn't feel the heavy eyes of the police, and you just didn't feel watched. You just felt welcome.
Yeah, that was one thing that kind of surprised me. Like with anything, before you go to a place, you hear all these stories, and it might be dangerous. Pretty much as soon as we got past the checkpoint, which is just all local local people, voluntary people with a lot of big guns actually, and they were just checking, any cops in there, any police, any politicians. If so, you're not allowed in. Anyone else, go right ahead. And as soon as we're inside there, it was like one of the nicest little towns I've ever been to, really. It was like most people, like there was no eyes on us, but it was such a friendly town that almost every second or third car that would drive by, people would be waving and smiling, and it wasn't because like we were gringos per se. You could kind of tell that's kind of just what they do there. And we're sitting there as gringos in a big black SUV in this fairly indigenous sort of a town, and they had it was nothing like, no one was pointing at us or anything. It was just like if they saw us, they'd be like, "Oh, hi, hey." Yeah. It was really, really nice. And there's some questions out there from some people, and we didn't have time to get into all of them at the Dollar Vigilante or at Luke We Are Change. Like, can you have private property rights there? Basically, what I understand of the places, especially after having been there, is they have been very self-governing for their entire history. There's a name for the people from that region. They're actually not Aztecs as the people around this area used to be as much. And the Aztecs actually tried to take them over, and they couldn't. And these, I couldn't help but notice, most of the people there are like 5'3", 5'2", and these guys have been fighting off empires over centuries. They fought off the Aztecs, they fought off the Spanish, and then the Mexican government started to, take more control of their area, and they're like, no, they kicked them out. They had snipers up there. They're like, get out of here. We don't want you in here. So really a heroic story, in my opinion, those people, because so many people have been trying to take them over. And actually, I don't think we got on camera. I don't know if you did, but as we drove in, there was just some graffiti on a wall, and I'll try to paraphrase what it said. It said something like, self-governance is life, and submission to authority is death. And so that was like the first thing I saw, and then it was so nice there. So it was really cool. Luke Rudowski of Weird Change is probably going to put another video. You took a lot of footage there as well. It might be in your documentary. So let's talk about the documentary. What's going on there?
Well, the documentary kind of happened organically. Like I ran into your show at one point last year, and you were saying I've been awake for quite a while, and you were speaking about all the things I already knew were true, but you added Bitcoin, and that really So when the conference came up, I was like, well, this is everybody I've ever wanted to interview. Like, I need to go to this. So I got a hold of Nathan Freeman, and who then asked me if I could help with the conference, and so I wound up working the conference, but I wound up still getting all the interviews I wanted. But there was things missing. I wanted the example of anarchy. I wanted to get more into the cryptocurrencies and stuff, because I see that as the tool of the anarchists. It's what cuts off the head of the snake, which is the banks, in my opinion. And so I had these great interviews, and I really wanted to come back down here, and just didn't have the means quite, and I got a benefactor who called me up and said, I'm going to bring you down. Hey, this is Chris Harrigan here in beautiful Acapulco, here making Anarchapocalypse. And I especially want to give a big shout out to Bob Stanley and Frios IO for bringing me here and helping me along with my project. If you don't know about Frios, you really got to look into it. This is amazing technology these guys are bringing to the table. It's free market, encrypted, and just brings it all back to where it should be. So check out Frios IO. So now I'm here for a few weeks, and it's the documentary is taking on really a life of its own, and that's what I wanted. When you're part of something special, when the documentary wants to be made, and you're just the medium, and that's where I'm at right now. And I can't I have a loose synopsis in my head of the main topics. And one of the ones that was going to be difficult was showing an example of anarchy, and we did that. We went, and it rocks. That's exactly how things should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're exactly right. That is one of the big things that we always hear is, well, it's prove it works. We've never seen it actually work. Well, we're doing it in Liberland right now. Now it's not fully recognized yet by many countries as a country, but it's essentially becoming one right now, and it will be, in my opinion. And that's going to be an anarchist country. There's not going to be any enforced taxes or anything like that. It's basically going to be anarchist. The people running, the president is an anarchist. It's Vitalik. He's been on Anarchast many times. He speaks at Anarchapocalypse every year. We just went and saw Cherán. They've been 7 years without government. It was very nice. I think if I was going to say one thing, I'd say it's not like super rich and wealthy, but they seem to have this bit of this sort of syndicalist sort of approach. I even heard that you're not even supposed to be allowed to own private property there. If that's the case, I just want to say this. A lot of anarchists would say, oh, you should totally slam them, right? Because they don't get some of the parts. No, you know what I'm going to do? We met the town elder, very nice guy. I've invited him to Anarchapulco. I'm going to get him the book, The Market for Liberty, which has been translated into Spanish. And I believe maybe Larkin Rose's book has been translated into Spanish as well. And there's one other book I want to get him that's in Spanish. I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe Economics in One Lesson or something like that. But essentially saying, this is great what you've done. You guys, though, if you want, and this is up to them, right? We're not going to force this on them at all. If you guys want to do better, if you want to have more capital or just, have nicer things, like there's everything wasn't super polished or super nice. You could tell they didn't have a ton of money. If you'd like something, and he actually did ask for donations. So right there,
Yeah.
so right there, you can kind of tell. Like even if he's kind of against what he thinks is the free market, or I guess what he would think is capitalism, if he's kind of against that for some reason, we'll just kind of advise him that's not what capitalism. There's nothing wrong with it. The word, maybe you misunderstand the word, but basically free trade is how a place becomes very prosperous. So we'll go do that with him. So with a name like the documentary Anarchapocalypse, it sounds pretty dark. So what's the overall theme, or have you even put together a sort of a theme for it yet?
Well, it really came because, I mean, anarchy is a misunderstood term. You know, it means no rulers, Greek word. And so is apocalypse. It means the unveiling of truth, as far as I understand. Yeah. So I don't know, the two words just married in my head one day, and I decided to call the film that. And it's definitely not a dark film. I mean, it is in some senses, because, you know, I'm interviewing.
I guess it's the misunderstanding of the word apocalypse, right? Like, a lot of people think that means like everything just blows up. It's sort of like what people think of anarchy, right?
Right.
Oh, anarchy, that just means everyone blows everything up. It's like, no, that's not what it means.
Exactly. And, you know, going around and talking to people here, you know, you have a city full of anarchists here. A lot of times people don't even know they're anarchists.
Yeah.
You know, and
you've been meeting some locals, right?
Yeah, and I find that really interesting. Acapulco is just this is the place I want to be making the film. It's amazing that I managed to get here. This film does still need some funding, obviously, but it's all here. It's all here. This is a town full of anarchists, and it's no wonder that you all congregated here.
Yeah, you know, like when I first came here was 2007 or 2008 way before that, 2004 on my sailboat, and so I sailed into that bay over there, and all I knew about Acapulco was what I saw on The Price is Right. You want a trip to Acapulco? And I'm like, oh, it must be cheesy or something. So I roll in on my sailboat at night, and the bay looks like a lot of people say this, it looks like a bowl of diamonds at night, because with all the lights sparkling and all the mountains surrounding the bay. And I was like, whoa, this is not, I was expecting to be like Cancun or Cabo or something, kind of like touristy and cheesy or something. And I pull in, and the first newspaper I saw, and I didn't speak great Spanish, but I kind of understood it, was 8 policemen heads chopped off, rolled down the street for fun, and I went, huh. And I wasn't I wasn't anarchist at the time, but I wasn't as sort of like how I am now. That wasn't my main focus. I was just trying to have fun at the time. Right. I was just looking to have a good time, and I was like, well, this sounds all right. Like, a lot of people might be scared about that. Like, oh my gosh, they're chopping off policemen's heads. I was like, well, I guess if you're going to do it to anyone, policemen or politicians, right? And I was like, oh, interesting. And I spent more and more time here. And it's not like that happens all the time, by the way. It's less and less a lot now. But as soon as I saw how the place ran and I started meeting all the people, it's exactly like what you said. Almost everyone here is an anarchist. They might not know what the word means, but they're starting to learn from us, actually. It's kind of been this kind of interesting dynamic going on here. But I've never met anyone in Acapulco who likes government.
No. I mean, you know, and you're talking about the police and stuff. But I mean, it's the corruption. You know, the cartels, the police, the government, it's all, you know, to them, it's all kind of the same thing.
And it is basically the same thing.
Yeah. And I even talked to people who are like, you know, there was a lot of drug selling here and stuff, but there was nothing wrong with that. It wasn't until the government decided to do the war on drugs. Yeah. And what a destructive thing to do. I mean, how many people died, and everybody here has got a story. You know, people they lost, and I don't know what else to say to that. I mean, if it wasn't, there's nobody who hasn't said, it's the government. It was the government's fault. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, they really get it because they see it every day, and they know. You know, they could just see it where it's a lot more hidden in like Canada or the U.S., where it's not as easy to pick out that the government is the problem because they've got it really well orchestrated and stuff like that. And funny story, when I first did the first Anarchapulco was at the Copacabana Hotel, which is right in the middle of the bay, and I went with my wife, and we sat down, and she said, okay, what's the name of the conference? And I went, Anarchapulco. And she turned like white. And it was like she saw a ghost. And I was like, just look at her. I looked at my wife, I looked at her. I was confused what was going on. And my wife looked at me, she was confused. And then she went, oh, not Narcopulco, Anarchapulco. Yeah. And right then she kind of went, okay, so it's not for narcos. And we're like, no. And my wife goes, it's for anarchists. She goes, oh, anarchists, fine. So that's really like the approach down here. It's like, you know, like, even if they don't fully understand what we're talking about when we say the word anarchy, some of them might think it's a bit more communist, some of them whatever. But in general, it's very well accepted. We've been like approached by the top hotel group here for the last 2 years, who's run by basically a narco-capitalist. He's a billionaire here in Mexico, and he invited us to have our conference at his hotel. So we're like in a perfect place for anarchists here. You're right.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny when we went to Cherán, when we were interviewing the elder, when we brought that up, you know, are you an anarchist? And he was like, oh yeah, like you know, because now he would have said no maybe before. I think he mentioned that.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, but now that he understands what it means, like he's totally about it, and.
Yeah, Luke Radowski was interviewing him, and I asked him on the interview, would you describe what's going on here in Cherán as anarchism? And his response was yes, and he was very like, yes, it is, absolutely. And then he explained, if you asked me that a few years ago, I would have said no because I didn't know what the word meant. But now he understands what the word means, which means no rulers, which means they are self-autonomous in that area. They don't. There's no real government at all. They all kind of like the whole towns just sort of handles their own business, and whatever happens, they just kind of handle it. But there's no taxes, no government, there's no president, there's no nothing, and it works. It works there, great. And a lot of people might say, well, that won't work as well in Chicago. Yeah, probably if you just turned off all the government right now in Chicago, actually it'd be far better. But there'd definitely be some problems because everyone there is so used to statism. In this particular area, they've never been used to statism or government. They've always, even if they've had it come in, they're like, we want this out. So yeah, it's a little easier there, and that's going to be the case all over the place. And we'll see what happens. And you know, I'm going to Burning Man actually this week, and that's a city in the desert in Nevada for 1 week per year with about 90,000 people, which is completely anarchic. So that's why I'm going. If anyone's asking why I'm going, so that's another kind of example that I'm going to go see with my own eyes. We have these examples now, so really looking forward to your documentary. I'm really sorry, I'm super busy, as you know. You've seen how I live a few times now. It's just go from one thing to the next. But I do want to let you say whatever you want about the documentary. I know you're looking to possibly raise some funds to really make it as good as possible. Anything else? Maybe you need some help from people, whatever you want to let people know.
Well, I'm planning on having this film done for Anarchapulco. That's where I'd like to premiere it. And as far as funding, there will be a crowdfunding page going up. But right now I'm just focusing on getting as much production done. If anybody does want to make a donation, I mean, simply just go send it to Anarchapocalypse@gmail, because that's just the single account I have right now. And I'll give you some cryptocurrency, my addresses, and anything would help, really. You know, generally, when I've been working in the documentary industry for 20 years, and I'm really putting the cart before the horse here. Like, you know, I just realized this needs to be made, so I'm making it, and things are falling into place. But any amount of help would be very much appreciated. And you know, if there's anybody in crypto land that wants to sponsor this film, we could use that kind of help too. And yeah, I think I'm just, you know, this is going to be a one-of-a-kind movie. Like, this is, you know, all roads led me to here, so I'm here.
That's great. Is there any other way that people can get in contact with you? Facebook or?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Steemit. On Steemit, it's XHRGN, which is kind of encrypted for my name, Chris Harrigan. You can find me there.
We'll put all those links down below.
Yeah, and that's it. Just stay tuned, and I think we're going to rock the world with this.
That's great. And as I said before, you know, like, we need to get away from like this taxation system and all this sort of stuff. But the flip side of that is putting your money where your mouth is a little bit. And I'm just talking about $5 or $10 here. There's going to be probably 5,000 views of this video. Let's say 3,000 of them just really like it. 2,000 of them are like, I don't care about this. That's fine. So 3,000, they all chip in $10. That's $30,000. You get this thing really looking good. You know, it's like money is actually currency. It's called currency, and it's called currency because it's actually energy. So that's how you put your energy towards things. And it could be $10, $20. It could be $5. It could be $100 if you've got a fair amount of money or whatever you want. But that's really how we can get these things done. And I'm not sitting here like begging and hoping, and he's not begging either. But I'm saying if you want to help these things get done, that's how you do it. So we'll have all the links to that all down below. You'll be back at Anarchapulco, and we'll maybe even have the premiere for this at Anarchapulco if you get it done in time. I only got about 6 months, so we'll see how fast you can get it done. But maybe some sort of, at least a little bit of it. So definitely check that out. Anarchapulco is selling out fast. So just, try to get your tickets as soon as possible at anarchapulco.com. And that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.